What's up, guys? Welcome to the Kingdom Men Transfer Man Nation, brought to you by our sponsor, The Acquisition CEO. If you want to buy or sell a business, hit him up in the link below. Today, I've got a really freaking killer good friend of mine on, Chris Sweet with Swamp Rabbit Moving, and we're going to talk about everything from being a dad to being an entrepreneur. But Chris, introduce yourself. Tell us what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Chris, owner of Swamp Rabbit Moving. I founded Swamp Rabbit Moving in October of 2020, and we took off pretty fast. Super blessed. I got a beautiful wife, 3 beautiful girls, and 2 female dogs, so I'm surrounded by hormones all day.
Oh, man, that's tough.
Yeah.
You got an extra uphill battle.
I do. I've gotten used to it, though. So my wife recently, we've been talking about maybe having another baby, and she was like, you want a boy? I'm like, no, I think I'll take another girl just because I already know, you know what to expect, right? Don't mess up the harmony that we got going right now.
Well, and honestly, girls, they got a lot of emotions, but they're pretty easy.
Yeah.
Like my daughter is, we're like best little buddies. And I know I see that on Facebook with you and your kids.
Sure.
And for me, it's such a blessing. Like, I absolutely love my daughter. Like, me and her, we're like, we either get in a lot of trouble or we do a lot of cool things together, but
for sure.
It's super fun, and it's just sweet to me because I grew up with 2 brothers.
Yeah.
So I never really was around girls that much.
Yeah.
But as a dad, she's always like drawing me things and giving me little gifts, and like, she'll be like, can I have that in the store? And I'm like, yeah, and my wife's like, she's got 100 stuffed animals. I'm like, let's make it 101.
Yeah, what's the big deal?
What's the big deal?
Yeah.
She needs some more.
Yeah.
So I'm always saying yes. But I think having girls is super sweet. I've got a nephew who's a boy, and he's totally different,
Off the wall, probably.
Yeah, and we have friends with boys, and my wife, we do homeschooling, and she helps with all that in the co-op.
Yeah.
And she'll come home and be like, man, those boys, they're like spitting on worms and like trying to eat lizards and totally different. The girls are like, let's do her hair.
Yeah, no, they want to do makeup. So it's funny because, my 3 kids, they all got different personalities.
Yeah.
Like my oldest girl, she's kind of girly girl, but she's really into like sports and stuff like that. And my middle child, she's more like a tomboy.
Yeah.
And my youngest, she's super girly girl.
Yeah.
Like painting nails and trying to do makeup at 3. Obviously, it's a fake makeup kit. Like she's not putting on like real lipstick or nothing, but she's just all into like the girly girl stuff. And, I find myself at least once a week probably get my toenails painted.
Hey, I wore, I think it was blue toenail paint. It doesn't wear off very easily.
And I don't have the time to take it off. I put a shoe on, just leave it on.
I'm with you. I did that, and I've realized that it stayed on my toes until they like grew out of the toenail paint.
Like 3 years later.
Yeah, 3 years later.
You're
at the very end of the thing. But I'm the same way. But I think that's a cool thing when dads allow. Like a lot of dads, they won't let their daughters paint their toes. Or they don't spend that time engaged with their family. We're going to talk a lot about that because one of the things I love about entrepreneurship and even the concept behind like Kingdom Men and that kind of stuff is being a good family man, being a good husband, being a good father. It's tough being an entrepreneur. But let's go back. So you started Swamp Rabbit Moving in 2020.
2020,
which was 4 years ago, but it seems like it doesn't seem like that long.
No, it seems like
a
yesterday.
week ago.
Yeah. I guess it's true what they say, when you're having fun, time flies.
Yeah. Well, and what's also interesting about that is so Swamp Rabbit has grown. How many trucks you got?
We got 16 trucks right now.
16 freaking trucks. So you grew from 0 to 16 trucks in 4 years.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, like, people think, they think both sides. They think it happens overnight, which it never happens overnight. Nothing does, except for trouble usually.
Yeah.
And then it actually doesn't take as long as you think. If you stay in the fight and you stay in the journey, 4 years of our lives is not really that long of a time frame.
It's a small fraction.
It's a small fraction. And so you've gone from, starting at 0 to turning a business that has 16 trucks, and that's doing what a month in revenue?
So right now, typically during the busy season, we're seeing about $550,000, $600,000 a month in revenue.
So that's freaking huge. That's gross revenue.
Yep.
$500,000 in gross revenue a month from 0 in 4 years.
Yep.
And so I love sharing stories like this because I want to encourage other people that listen to this podcast or watching on YouTube that it doesn't happen overnight, but it actually doesn't take that long. Just imagine what that can look like in 4 more years. Now that you've taken everything that you've learned, all the failures, all the rough spots, all the rough patches, it's like, chewing on sandpaper some days. Now you know those things and you know how to overcome them. Imagine how much more effective you can be in the next 4 years.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's got to fire you up.
Absolutely. And I think I could be a little bit more effective with less work.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I learned the art of delegation.
Yeah.
That was the key.
Yeah, I think as you grow in entrepreneurship and you're doing more things, you have to learn that because you've only got so much time and mental money that you can process.
Yeah.
But then to become more effective, you've got to learn to delegate.
And that's one of the hardest things. That's where people struggle with the most is delegation, I feel like.
Yeah, I think you get to a point to where you're either going to stop growing or you have to delegate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like you reach your max output,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, I can't do all this anymore. I've got to go hire somebody or find somebody. But I think that's really how you build a good business as well, because we're not good at everything.
Exactly.
You know, you have skill sets that you're really good at, and everybody does. You find other people that are really good at the skill sets you're not good at.
Yep.
I was talking to a guy one time. He might be a billionaire, but he's pretty wealthy.
Yeah.
And he was talking about business partnerships. And one of the things that he was talking about in business partnerships was don't find people like you for partners. They make people that are just like you make the worst business partners, because that's not what you need. You need somebody who offsets the skill sets and talents that you have.
Exactly.
And I found that to be true in my own life. Same thing with building a team of people. You want to find people that are good at what you're not good at.
Yeah.
But so that only took 4 years. But let's talk a little bit about previously, kind of your story and where you came from and what that looks like. Because a lot of people, they think, oh, man, you know, they say, oh, it must be nice. Or, man, that guy came from money, or they got it made. Or you ever look at somebody in their 50s and you're like, they got the boat or the airplane and a couple houses, and you're like, man, they really got it together. That must be great. But it took them 20 or 30 years to get there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So and people see that version, but they don't see the version that person was 30, 40 years ago.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And that's hard to chew on.
Absolutely.
But I want to encourage people that wherever you're at, you can do it.
Yep.
You can everybody that I know has started from zero, and then they build something, and that takes a little bit of time and a whole lot of mental effort, no doubt. But let's talk about the challenges of where you started at, because it's super inspiring.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short. I could probably talk about it for days.
Yeah.
So growing up, grew up, kind of poor. I wouldn't say too poor. My family, definitely, they worked. Both my parents throughout my life started struggling with addiction. Grew up without a father. We were couch surfing with me and my mom and my sister were couch surfing in people's houses, living in Motel 8s, whatever we could do, because we were constantly getting evicted. My mom, multiple times throughout my life was getting her car repoed because she got a title loan, one of those title loans or whatever, and they never paid it. So grew up, obviously I fell in the same footsteps, started struggling with addiction myself, in and out of jail. Luckily I never went to prison. I probably should have a couple times, so just a couple short stints in jail. And then my mom went to prison, and when she got out and her action, where she had changed and, she kind of found God in prison and made a drastic 180 in life. That kind of inspired me to change my life too. I had been in and out of rehab. Rehab never really helped. I would either leave during the middle of it, or come home back to the same stuff in a short amount of time and then back to rehab. But when I saw the action she was taking to change her life, it kind of inspired me to change my life. And I met a guy in an NA room named Kyle, and he was working at another local moving company when I got back. And it's like, hey man, you should come try this out. It's good money. You get tips. We get to be, hang out with the bros all day. We get to see cool houses. So that's what I did. And I just fell in love with it right away. And I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, because the only stable people in my life were my grandparents on my mom's side, right? So they all had normal jobs. My grandpa owned his own business for 38 years. He just sold it maybe 2 months ago.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So he just retired. He'll never actually retire. He'll constantly do something. But he was always my role model, so I always looked up, and I always knew I wanted to do something similar to what he did. And I knew when I found that job at Tiger Moving, that was my next step. Like, that's what I was going to do. But during that time frame, I had lost my license for 5 years, because in the period of maybe 2.5 months, I got 9 or 10 driving under suspensions.
Right.
So it wasn't just like a little 3-month license suspension. It was 5 years.
Yeah, like you're done.
Yeah, you're done. No more driving for 5 years. You're going to take a good break. And typically, obviously, me getting called 10 times, that didn't usually stop me, but I was already on the breaking point, at my lowest point, where I was really trying to cultivate a new life, right? I was trying to be somebody
You're like,
different.
I got to stop.
Yeah, I can't keep going to jail every week or twice a week.
This is not going to be good.
Yeah. So I stuck to that. When I got back, I was living in a camper in the back of my grandpa's business, driving a moped to and from Tiger Moving. So I was driving from Spartanburg to Malden Road every day, because that's where their office at. Yeah.
That's a haul in a car.
Yeah. Night, it didn't matter if it was raining, cold, I was the hardest worker at Tiger Moving, and I knew when I got my license back that I was going to start Swamp Rabbit Moving. And the week I got my license back is when I officially started Swamp Rabbit Moving.
So you were cruising on a moped.
Yes.
Right.
Hoping none of my friends saw me. So, like, I had a hood up and a ski mask on. Please don't look at me.
So somebody that's going to listen to this probably passed you on a moped.
Probably.
And they probably still doing the same thing they were doing. And I think about this all the time. If you don't do it, somebody else will.
Yeah.
And so you went from moped to 500K gross a month in 4 years. And that's huge. Yep. That's freaking that just inspires the crap out of me,
Yeah.
But also a reminder to people and even ourselves, when you drive by, you can't judge a book by its cover.
For sure.
You pass somebody on a moped, you're like, oh, man, that guy.
Yeah.
Well, that dude could freaking become the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company.
Yeah.
Because it happened.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
It does happen.
Yeah.
And so that should encourage anybody that's listening to this, wherever you're at. Like, if you just keep going, if you have a dream, right? You had a dream of starting a moving company, and then you went and you did it.
Yeah.
But you kept going. And that's not easy either. Entrepreneurship, I don't think that people should get out of a job and get into entrepreneurship thinking it's going to be easy, or with the goal of just being busy. Because I'm kind of like you're thinking, like anti-busy. I want to be effective and purposeful, but I don't really want to just be busy. I want to have a plan and a purpose behind everything. But entrepreneurship is not easy. It's not easy to stay in the game, right?
Yeah.
In Greenville, I think there's 4,300 real estate agents.
Yeah.
And so people are always like, how do you stand out? Same thing with moving companies, or landscape companies or whatever somebody starts a business doing. There's going to be competition.
For sure.
And so people always think about, well, how do you stand out? And a lot of that has to do with survival,
Yeah.
right? If you keep going on the hard days, if you overcome the challenges, if you own up to your mistakes, if you overcome the screw ups and you just keep going, you'll outlast most people.
Absolutely.
Most people quit when it gets hard. Oh, the conversation's too hard, I quit. Oh, the bank account's empty, I quit. Oh, I can't make that Facebook video. I can't go do that thing. I can't make that phone call. I can't pick that up. I can't drive somewhere and fix something that I screwed up. It's too hard.
Yeah.
So they quit and they go home.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of parts of entrepreneurship have to do with just surviving and outlasting other people. But let's talk about some of the challenges that you've overcome in starting Swamp Rabbit Moving and what that looked like. So you started out, you rented a truck to get started, right?
I started out using a pickup truck that I had picked up a nice little gig for starting out, delivering antiques for an antique shop called Rock House Antiques.
So how'd you stir that lead up though?
Through Tiger Moving. So, I was on a job for Tiger Moving, and, obviously they had a 3-hour minimum. So there was some stuff that, they wouldn't really pay Tiger Moving for because it just wasn't worth it.
Sure.
And, they approached me. I didn't approach them. They approached me. I was like, hey, would you mind doing some deliveries or whatever? And at that point, I still didn't have a license. So I went and asked my buddy that was a driver at Tiger Moving. I was like, hey, I got a good little deal we can go deliver, after work, 2 or 3 things and make a couple $100 a piece.
So here's the cool thing behind that, and what I want people to take away from it is you didn't start with, 16 moving trucks. You didn't even start with a moving truck.
Yeah.
You started with an opportunity and you said yes.
Yep.
And it really wasn't about what's the profit margins, how much revenue does it generate. You're like, I see an opportunity to kind of get into this game. I'm going to take it with a pickup truck. You didn't even have a driver's license.
Yeah. It was just a foothold.
You're overcoming objections right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And that's what I want people to understand about entrepreneurship. And it's really just about overcoming those things.
Yeah, it's problem solving.
It's problem solving. Yeah. From day one. You don't start out with, okay, I'm going to go have, a multi-million-dollar moving company.
Yeah.
Maybe that was kind of a thought process, but it never starts out that way.
Way down the road. I didn't think I would be where I was at, now. Like, I'd probably been happy if I was at like $500,000 a year right now.
Right.
That would be substantial to me.
Which it is. I mean, that is still substantial.
Yeah, it is.
So you started out of the gate, right off the bat, no driver's license, saw an opportunity. You said, but here's the thing. You said yes, and then you figured it out.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they stop at those points. Again, goes back to the conversation of, oh, it's too hard.
Yeah.
I don't have a driver's license. How am I going to start a moving company? Well, I will go ask my friend.
Yeah.
A lot of people are too prideful to ask for help. One of the things when I got into real estate, I started asking for help. I went and I found other agents to mentor me, and I said, hey, what do you do? How do you do it? And I've never stopped that part of the process. I'm always asking, hey, will you help? Or, hey, even down at the Outer Banks, I'm working on a deal right now, on a commercial deal where I ask somebody for help. I'm like, hey, I'm new in the area. Can I get some help? How can we navigate this? You got a problem. I love to help solve it. How can we work together to get the deal done? And we are. And so it's always about, hey, can you have a conversation with somebody? You know, I think communication plays such a huge part, but also the humility piece.
Yeah.
I don't have a driver's license. You could be like, oh, I'll just do it. Or no, I'll just say no and I'll just stay right here because I'm afraid.
Yeah.
You didn't let fear stop you. You didn't let a complication stop you. You just kept going. That's why I say keep going all the time.
Yeah.
Because if you just keep going,
That's your phrase.
imagine where you can go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can go to $500K a month.
Yep.
So talk a little bit more about that. So you overcame those challenges, don't have a driver's license, didn't even have any leads, you didn't have a business, you didn't have a lead gen, you didn't have a CRM, you didn't have an accountant, you didn't have an LLC, you didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
You just said, I think I can earn a little money.
Yep.
And I'm going to go figure it out.
Yep. So we were delivering those with a U-Haul and a buddy that could drive. And, going into those houses and delivering those antiques, it led to more things, right? Like people actually needed moving service. So that's what we started doing. We started doing what we call them side jobs. I wound up being able to save up 20 grand. And when I did get my license back, I used that 20 grand, and then my mom gave me $2,000, and then my mother-in-law, she wasn't my mother-in-law at the time, loaned me $3,000, and I bought a moving truck. And then from there, it was kind of all she wrote. I had formed an LLC in March of 2020, just preparing for when I did get my license back. And then in October, it was off to the races.
That's so freaking cool.
Yeah, and we went from, anytime after that first truck, anytime I had enough just to cover payroll and buy a new truck, that's what I would do.
Right.
So I would just cash fund everything the first couple of years, and I think that truly helped sustain us through what we call the slow season, right? Because we didn't have any debt to service. There was no overhead. I was parking the trucks in my apartment complex, paying myself very little. I think I paid myself less the first year than I made at Tiger Moving as a mover.
Yeah.
Because I was making pretty good money there. I was by the time I left, I was making $27.50 an hour plus tips. I mean, that wasn't bad at all. I was definitely clearing 65, 70 grand a year.
Well, even the first few years in your business, I remember talking at one point, you didn't really even pay yourself a whole lot of money. You were still in the apartment.
Yeah,
you didn't buy a house.
I was so focused. Once I figured out that there was potential and that I had the belief that I could do this, I was so focused on growing. So any frivolous expenses outside of growing my business was not a priority to me at all.
Yeah.
And then now, second year I made good money, third year I made really good money, and this year I'm going to make really, really good money.
Yeah.
It was,
you bought a new truck?
Yeah, sacrifice up front for a long-term payout. And I think another key thing that really, truly helped me in the beginning is, I was just a mover at Tiger Move. I didn't know nothing about the back-end office stuff, so I hired a consultant. And I think I was his first client too. But what he had that I didn't have was that he was a sales manager for College Hunks before he stepped out and started his own thing. So he had all the back end knowledge I needed, and I had all the moving experience that I needed. And I was able to collide those two to make a full circle of the business as a whole.
Yeah, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. He had a skill set you didn't.
Yeah.
And you had a skill set he didn't.
Yeah.
And so you're able to put that together and go, let's make sense out of this thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's key to solving problems is looking for help.
Yeah.
But also the humility to ask for help.
Yep.
A lot of people, their pride is in the way of their paycheck.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're like, and just talking about even the purchases and those kind of things. I know a lot of people that have jobs, and me and Michael Byers were talking about this on the podcast. They have jobs and they have a bunch of junk they can't even afford, right? And people think that that's what matters. I see it in real estate agents, and even a lot of salespeople. They buy something new before they really can even afford it.
Yeah, I call that hood rich.
Yeah, hood rich. Yeah, instead of investing back into their business or investing into their leads or investing into a team of people or support staff or whatever that may look like in your individual business or CRM or systems and that kind of stuff to make your business grow.
Yeah.
But it definitely does require that level of sacrifice. When you want to get committed to something, you have to be willing to set other things down.
For sure.
I used to get hung up in having stuff, but then
it's easy to do.
It is easy to do.
And I still find myself
the comparison
doing it
mindset
now.
You're like, man, that'd be cool. Like there are a lot of people that down there, they've got, $150,000 boats.
Yeah.
And I'm just not willing to commit to that.
For sure.
Point, I want to use boat that gets the job done, but I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But it's easy to sit around and look at them and go, man, because I could go buy one.
Yeah.
And it's like, I got to say no because I want to invest that capital in other things that I'm doing in my life that will generate other future returns rather than just something that sits there and depreciates.
Absolutely.
But a lot of people, they get hung up in that. You know, they think they got to have the new machine, the new excavator, the new skid steer, the new truck, the new trailer, the new stuff. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs, that's how they start their business out. They go buy the new things. They don't learn how to sell.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're like, oh man, I'm going to start a landscape business. I bought, you know, $50,000 worth of lawnmowers and a trailer. And I'm like, well, what are you doing to generate leads, or how are you managing revenue?
That's the easy part.
Right. Yeah. Buying the thing is the easy part. That's why most people do it.
Yeah.
Because it's an easy place to start. But when it comes down to, hey, how are you going to go generate revenue? They're like, that's a good question. Or where are you going to get leads?
Yeah.
You know? So I think reinvesting in your business or buying things that are appreciating assets, not depreciating assets, is a huge thing that as a society that separates people. Like I know some really wealthy people, and that's exactly what separates them. Now they have fruit, right? So they buy some toys and things for sure. But in the beginning, for a long time, they did not buy depreciating assets. Yeah. You know, you look at things and you go, why is that going to sit there and cost me X number of dollars? I mean, in a lot of things, they cost $1,000 a month. You know, you could buy $80,000 and $90,000 boat, it's $1,000 a month. What could you do with that?
Yeah.
How many people could you hire or employ, or what kind of marketing strategy could you invest that in? Or even a rental property. You could buy a rental property for $1,000 a month in certain parts of the country. Yeah. So that's huge. And recognizing that, though, but like you had to be super motivated because you're making $27 an hour. Yeah. It would be easy to stay normal or to stay good and just have that instead of going, you know what, I'm going to really get committed to doing this business thing. I'm going to not pay myself super crazy. I'm going to live in an apartment. I'm going to drive an old vehicle. Yep. And you did that for probably 3.5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I had a old beat up white pickup truck with a ladder rack that helped me like when we were moving like the taller antiques like the curio cabinets and the china cabinet. It was a nice place to be able to strap them.
That's funny. Yeah. But here's the thing though, is you realize that and you didn't care what anybody else thought.
No. I did, but I didn't let it affect me. Like,
sure,
I would be lying to say my ego wasn't affected.
Right.
But I didn't let that stop.
You didn't let that persuade you.
Yes.
John Maxwell told me one time, he said, one of the greatest things you can learn as a leader is don't let how other people act or think affect how you lead your life.
Yeah.
And that hit me like a pile of bricks because it's so easy to do. Because it does. We look at things and we have that comparison mindset. You see things in real life or on Facebook or whatever. But the key is to reflect on it and pay attention to it enough to where it doesn't make you change where you want to go.
Yes.
Right? Same thing with, we always talk about you become who you surround yourself with. And I heard it put a little different the other day. Somebody said 95% of who you become depends on who you hang out with.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And even somebody told me one time, that was another real estate mentor. He told me, he said, if you hang out with Taco Bell people, you're going to have Taco Bell clients.
Yep. And
I'm like, that hits because, I mean, I like me some Taco Bell, but it's so true, right? And so hanging out with the right people and being around the right people who are doing things, but not only are doing things, but are also clapping for you on the way.
For sure.
You know what I mean? A lot of people, they get jealous.
That's hard to find. A lot of people will be very friendly up front and then behind your back.
I always call that showing their cards. It's like a game of poker.
Yeah.
I always say that people will show you their cards when it comes down to one of two things: time and money. Yep. Right? If you ask, you helped me one day. I asked you. We took a moving truck, went and bought some, or got some gym equipment. You know. Yep. That was it. That was probably 3 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, it was
probably a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it's so true. People will vote for you with their time or their money.
Yep.
And so I always find that very, very interesting. But also on the flip side of that, like I always look at it like rowing a boat. Like I knew God made me to do something, whatever that was. And I love entrepreneurship and I love business and had a lot of business management experience in previous jobs. But now that I'm doing the things that I'm doing, it's the same kind of thing. It kind of fires you up. Mm-hmm. When you get clarity about like what you love to do, it's really all you want to do.
Yeah.
I love going to the gym, hanging out with my family, and I love working. Yep. It doesn't bother me.
Yep.
And so, but when you have that, you can get super committed to it. I think a lot of people, they just lack clarity. Like you had clarity. Yeah. You had to have clarity.
For sure.
In order to go, I don't have a driver's license. I'm going to start a moving company.
Yep.
Right? You're like, I want to go do this thing.
Absolutely.
And then you set out to do it, and you didn't let other people's opinions, even though they may have bothered you, you didn't let them persuade you.
Yeah. And
so that's a huge thing. I appreciate you. What's your website? How can people find you, find your business?
Yeah, so you can find us on the internet, swamprabbitmoving.com, very easy. Same with Instagram, at swamprabbitmoving, Facebook, same thing, swamprabbitmoving. If you want to find me personally, right now I'm a dinosaur. I'm still only on Facebook.
That's okay.
So just look me up, Chris Sweet. You'll see my beautiful face.
That's right. And so if you're moving and you got to hire the Swamp Rabbit moving team, because they do the best job, and it's anywhere in the country.
Yeah.
Right? You're not just moving upstate moves at this point. You're doing everywhere.
Yeah, no, we do a ton of long distance.
Okay, cool. So hit him up, follow him on Facebook, follow his business on Instagram, hit his website up, and want to give a shout out to our sponsor, the Acquisition CEO. Again, if you want to buy or sell a business or have questions about those types of things, hit him up in the link below. And as I always say, let's go do some winning.
Let's do it.
See ya.